Hello again, everybody. It's Mr. K here to tell you about some of the saws that we have here in the makerspace. So this video is only about the saws that we have here in the makerspace. Most of the saws we have are set up to cut wood. We do have, again, the hacksaws for metals and plastics, and we do have some blades for one of the saws to cut metals and plastics. But for the most part, we will cut wood with the saws that we have in the makerspace. So the first saw we are going to start with is one that that is called the pole saw. The pole saw is the hand saw. This is the saw that we will use, again, that obviously doesn't plug into the wall. To use this tool, we need some other tools to go along with it. One of the tools we need is the most important tool, which is the pencil. The thing with cutting wood is that once you cut it, you can't put it back together. You really have to be sure that once the saw hits the wood, it is hitting it exactly where it is you need to hit. Otherwise, you just wasted your time and a good piece of wood. So the rule is measure twice, cut once. So you measure what you need to cut, you then measure it a second time, then cut it. Measure twice, cut once. Because again, there's no do-overs, there's no backsies. Once you cut the wood, it's done. To use the pole saw, you will need this, which is called a miter box. Now, teachers, you will need to make sure that the miter box is drilled into the tables before the students can use them. No, this will not ruin the tables, but if you see holes where a miter box was before, try to use the same ones so we can keep fewer holes from getting into the tabletops. Also, when you attach the miter boxes, make sure this lip right here is on the wooden edge of the table, not the metal edge. The metal edge will destroy, obviously, the saw blades when they grind against the metal. So attach the miter boxes, make sure that the lip is over the wood. And for folks like me, don't forget to account for the lefties. Not all of us are righties, so make sure you attach the miter boxes so students can use them both right and left-handed. Okay, now the miter box. What does the miter box do? The miter box is to use with the pole saws because it has little grooves in it, little slots. The slots lock onto the saw blade so you cut straight lines. You can also cut straight corners in both directions, this way and this way. And there's a slot where you can cut them this way, although chances are you're not going to be doing that. So we have our piece of wood that I've measured twice. I'm now going to place it in the miter box. Now let's say I only need a little tiny chunk of this big piece of wood. So you want the long edge to be along the table. If you think about it, that just makes sense. If the long edge is over here, someone's going to slam into it, it's going to mess up your cut, they're going to get hurt, you're going to get hurt. So the long edge over the table. Now, if I just take the saw and I get ready to cut this, you'll notice this isn't locked in. It's going to slide all over the place. So we need these, the C-clamps. You're going to put the C-clamp here, and you're going to twist. And it's going to help lock this piece of wood into the miter box. Now, if you twist these too hard, they will crack and break the miter boxes because these are only plastic. So tighten it just enough to where the wood stays still. If you need another, use another. Again, only tighten it just enough for the wood to hold still. Over-tightening it, again, will break the miter box. Once you're locked in, you need these. Safety goggles. You cannot use any members of the saw family without your safety goggles. So you take your goggles, hand off here. Goggles go on your face like this. This one, you can see the strap just broke. So let's not use those. Let's try these instead. Okay. If your goggles break for realsies, tell a teacher, get some new ones. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go hit the curb with my goggles on, but necessary. You really, really don't want sawdust in your eyes. That's pretty much awful. Now, when you are using any of these members of the saw family, if you ladies or gentlemen, if you've got long hair, make sure that it is out of the way. No hair down. Again, get your hair caught in a pole saw, it's unpleasant. When we get to the power saws, even more so. Also, while I can't absolutely force you to do this, I do recommend shoes that cover your toes. Because when this piece of wood lets go and falls, you don't want it to fall on your toes. That hurts. Now, with the power saws, you have to, mandatory closed-toe shoes. The pole saws, I recommend it, but it's not end of the world if you got sandals. But really, really watch your toes. Okay, so my hair is back, my toes are closed, I am ready to use the pole saw. So I find the line that I made, I add my miter box here. Now the pole saw works as the name says, by pulling and pushing and pulling and pushing. It's old school. As you are using this saw, don't do this. That again is what we call nibbling. You will be here for days trying to cut through this piece of wood. Also, this isn't a race of doing it as fast as you possibly can. The saw will slip out of the miter box and you can really hurt yourself or someone else. So again, you just want enough. Nice even pulls. Wood stays in the miter. Saw doesn't jump out. Now you might notice little flecks of green, little flecks of the miter box come out as you saw. Don't worry about it. You're not ruining the miter box. That's just going to happen as the blade touches the edges, especially the first few times we use it. Yeah, it's going to get stuck. Thicker pieces of wood are going to take a lot more work. We'll usually use these pole saws for the smaller pieces of wood, and we'll use the big power tool cousins here in a minute to do the real cutting. You can roll the saw back a little bit, like that. That's totally cool. Just watch the edge. Again, it is possible to saw through these miter boxes. They are, again, only plastic. So again, be smart. Don't go nuts. Don't go wild and crazy sawing. Just enough to do the job. Now you'll see my extra hand here is away from the saw blade. Best place to put it is on the back half of the wood. Gives you something to lean on to get some more power in your saw, but also keeps your spare hand out of the way. If you want to use the safety gloves or the gloves that are in the toolboxes, feel free to do so. So now, it stops sounding like wood. Now it gets really squeaky. Squeaky usually means the saw has gone through the piece of wood. Now it's just hitting the miter box. Saw comes out, set it out of the way, I undo my clamp, and I've got a nice sawed piece of wood. Pole saw. Okay, but the pole saw is not the only saw we have in our Makerspace saw family. So let's take a look at some of the others. Starting with what we call the compound miter saw. That's this guy right here. For the compound miter saw, there's a little button. Mine at home's a little different. Hold on. There it is. All right, let's stop this video.